Mist clung to the ancient eucalyptus trees of Bellang Forest, shrouding everything in a ghostly veil. Liam, a lone backpacker, checked his map, his breath visible in the cold, damp air. The silence was oppressive, every snapped twig echoing like a warning. He'd been warned about these trails, but the wild called to him. Now, deep in the forest, unease gnawed at him. The path ahead faded into haze. Behind him, the world felt impossibly distant. He was utterly alone. A prickling sensation crept up his neck. He was being watched. He spun around, but saw only the dense, unmoving wall of trees. Even the birds were silent. The usual bush sounds had vanished. Liam tried to dismiss it as nerves, but the dread only deepened. He pulled his jacket tighter, certain he wasn't alone. Twisted branches clawed at his pack. Roots threatened to trip him. The air grew colder, tinged with decay. Disoriented, he wondered if he was walking in circles. Then faint whispers drifted through the mist. Voices, or just the wind. Liam's heart pounded. He was no longer an explorer. He was prey. Every shadow seemed to move, every step echoed by something unseen. He realized too late that he should never have come to Bellang Forest. Terence O'Brien moved through Bellang Forest like a ghost, silent, patient, and predatory. This was his domain. He knew every trail, every hidden vantage. He watched hikers for hours, learning their routines, waiting for the perfect moment. His methods were simple. Use the forest as his trap. He'd approach as a friendly local, offer directions, and gain their trust. Then, he'd lead them deeper, away from safety. When they were isolated, the mask dropped. The friendly guide became a cold, calculating killer. He used the terrain to corner his victims, striking swiftly and leaving no chance for escape. The forest swallowed their final moments. No one heard, no one saw. O'Brien took trophies, a watch, a necklace, a photograph. He hid his crimes with chilling efficiency, the wilderness his perfect cover. The fear in his victims' eyes was his reward. For years he believed his cycle of observation, deception, and destruction would never end. The forest was his shield, and he was its master. No one suspected the quiet handyman at the edge of town. In Bellang Forest, Terence O'Brien was a god in the shadows. The disappearances began quietly. A backpacker missed a hostel check-in. A couple never returned from camping. At first, police assumed they were lost in the vast, unforgiving forest. Search parties found nothing. No tents, no backpacks, no footprints. It was as if the missing had vanished into thin air. As more people disappeared, a pattern emerged. All were last seen heading toward the same remote trails. The cases shifted from accidents to active investigations, but there were no witnesses, no suspects, no evidence. The only clues were unsettling: a lone hiking boot, a camera with ruined film. These felt like taunts, not accidents. The forest was an accomplice, hiding all traces. Fear spread among police and search teams. They were looking for bodies, not survivors. Volunteers grew hesitant, haunted by the knowledge that something or someone was still out there. The forest's silence became a warning. Each search felt heavier, every shadow a threat. The missing were gone, and the woods kept their secrets. Bellang Forest was no longer just wild, it was deadly. As the investigation stalled, the legend of the Bellang Forest Killer grew. The only clues were strange symbols carved into trees, circles, triangles, jagged lines, forming a pattern only the killer understood. Detectives realized these marks appeared only where people vanished. The police had no bodies, no crime scenes, and no suspects. Interviews led nowhere. The killer left no trace. Profilers guessed he was a local, someone who knew the forest intimately. Every lead went cold. Media descended, painting the town as haunted and the police as helpless. Morale plummeted. Detectives obsessed over maps and symbols, desperate for a breakthrough. The killer's actions seemed random, his victims chosen by opportunity. The case files grew, but answers did not. The carved symbols taunted investigators, a private language of death. The forest shielded the killer, leaving only shadows and whispers. The perfect crime hid in plain sight, and the police were lost in the dark. Blackwood Creek, once a peaceful gateway to Bellang Forest, became a town ruled by fear. The disappearances dominated every conversation. Suspicion poisoned the air. Some blamed outsiders, others suspected their own neighbors. Rumors of strange lights and screams in the woods spread panic. Wild stories of a hermit hunter sent police on fruitless chases. Trust in authorities crumbled as the disappearances continued. Tourism dried up, businesses closed, and the town's lifeblood ebbed away. The forest, once their pride, became a curse. Parents kept children indoors, hiking clubs disbanded, and the woods became forbidden. The sense of community fractured, each family isolated by fear. The killer hadn't just taken lives, he'd stolen the town's peace. Blackwood Creek was left haunted, its people prisoners of dread. The shadow of Bellang Forest loomed over every home. The case broke open when a survivor escaped. Sarah, a British backpacker, was approached by a friendly man named Terry on a remote trail. He offered to show her a shortcut, leading her deeper into the bush. As his demeanor shifted, Sarah sensed danger. When he lunged, she hurled her backpack at him and scrambled up the gully, running for her life. She burst onto a country road and flagged down a car. At the police station, she described her attacker, middle-aged, weathered, with a snake tattoo, and the name Terry. Police matched the description to Terence O'Brien, a reclusive handyman living on the forest's edge. For the first time, they had a face and a name. The pieces began to fit. The friendly local was the predator. The legend had a suspect. The hunt for the Bellang Forest Killer was finally real. The town braced for answers. And more horrors. Police raided Terence O'Brien's rundown cottage at dawn. He matched Sarah's description exactly, right down to the snake tattoo. O'Brien denied everything, but his calm cracked as police searched his home. In a locked chest, they found trophies: a locket, a watch, a camera, a German driver's license. In his workshop, they discovered handmade knives and a journal detailing his hunts, cold, detached accounts of stalking and killing. The evidence was overwhelming. Confronted, O'Brien's facade collapsed. The monster emerged. He refused to speak, but the truth was clear. Terence O'Brien was arrested for Sarah's abduction and became the prime suspect in the disappearances. The ghost of Bellang Forest finally had a face. Chillingly ordinary, terrifyingly real. The town's nightmare was no longer a rumor. Justice was finally within reach. With O'Brien in custody, police began the grim search for bodies. He refused to cooperate, but detectives followed the cryptic tree symbols, believing they marked graves. Search teams, aided by cadaver dogs, scoured the remote forest. After weeks, they found the first shallow grave, then 6 more, each marked by the killer's symbols. The remains confirmed the identities of the missing. The mystery was solved, but the tragedy was raw and real. The community reeled as the horror became undeniable. Families finally had answers, but closure came with heartbreak. Bellang Forest's secrets were unearthed, and the scars would never fade. Terence O'Brien was convicted of 7 murders, sentenced to life without parole. He showed no remorse, remaining silent to the end. Justice was served, but the wounds in Blackwood Creek ran deep. Bellang Forest became infamous, a place forever marked by tragedy. Years later, the shadow lingers. The deeper trails remain deserted. The forest is no longer just beautiful. It's haunted by memory. Simple wooden crosses now mark the graves, quiet memorials in the woods. The story endures, a chilling warning that monsters can hide in plain sight. Bellang Forest will never be just a forest again. Its whispers carry the weight of a terrible past.